Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your World Cup Daily. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Absolutely stellar. It's absolutely boiling here. How about you?
It's a cold one. It's another cold one. But we are here today to pick our teams of the tournament. I wanted to pick them today so that the final doesn't skew our views too much. Now, I don't think it would regardless, because I think, you have to look at it as a tournament. We know that France and Argentina will be the final. We will have a podcast dedicated to that game, as well as picking our players of the tournament and who we think will end up with the golden boot, as well as Messi and Mbappe head into that game with 5 goals each. But today we're going to look a little bit at the 3rd and 4th place playoff between Croatia and Morocco, and also just take a quick look back at the quarterfinals and semi-finals. If there's anything that we missed while doing these daily pods, we can hit on it now. So let's actually start there, Karl, because it should be good and quick to get it out of the way. Quarterfinals, Croatia draw with Brazil 1-1 and then beat them on penalties. Netherlands and Argentina draw 2-2. Argentina win on penalties. Morocco knock out Portugal 1-0. And France knock out England 2-1. Anything from that round that you feel we didn't quite hit enough on this pod?
I don't know that there's too much we didn't cover. I think it's quite interesting that there's not been too many games have gone to extra time and penalties. I think it's more of a broad strokes thing. We could look back at those quarterfinals and semis now and speak about, because considering quite a lot of the games at the World Cup have been like relatively tense and nobody's really overcommitted, I would maybe have expected more games to go to extra time, maybe go the distance. And obviously the Croatia and Netherlands ones did. The next two didn't. Neither of the semi-finals have, or even have been close to going to extra time in the end. I do think it's quite interesting, let's say, that there have been either ridiculously good defensive efforts or teams who have seized the moment when they've needed to and just sort of run away with it a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's been a notable rise in good defending as the tournament has narrowed down. In the group stage, we saw some of the worst defensive play you're ever going to see. But once we got into the knockouts, I think a lot of teams really tightened up. And even, Argentina had some wobbles against Australia and the Netherlands, but, the defensive performance against Croatia was outstanding. Now, Croatia aren't a great attacking team, but I still thought you mentioned that you wrote a great article on it about the midfield and how that contributed to the defensive work. I think that's vital. I think that's something that's worth highlighting. Obviously, Morocco only conceded 3 goals in the entire tournament, and 2 of them came in the semi-final. They're the only 2 goals that were scored against them by the opposition. The other one was an own goal by Naif Agard against Canada. They've built their team on a really strong defense. And to some extent, France have built their team on a strong defense. And they had real rocky moments, largely because of Upamecano and Theo Hernandez having big wobbles against England. But, when we got to the knockout phase, or the semi-final phase, you were looking at, in fact, I'd go back to the quarterfinal phase. Croatia, Netherlands, Argentina, Morocco, and France, teams that were basically built to stop the opposition first and foremost, and then had differing ways of counterattacking and exposing weaknesses in the opposition team. For France, it was as simple as give it to Mbappe and hope for the best, or, you know, hope that Griezmann can manipulate some space. These were some interesting games that we got in the quarterfinals and semi-finals. Like, Croatia-Brazil was a strange game because everybody expected Brazil to come out and just outplay Croatia. And I remember at half-time, BBC, I think it was, that had that one, were talking about how, they've been able to keep up with Brazil. They outplayed them in the first half. You know, we saw Morocco get their goal against Portugal and then go all hands on deck in the second half. But Portugal, like Brazil, you didn't really feel like they were fully committing themselves to trying to win those games. They were playing a little bit within themselves. And I think one of the legacies this World Cup will have is that there's a couple of nations that will be very, very disappointed in how things panned out for them, about the manner in which they went out. But we have seen, I think, an uptick in good defensive football being married with an ability to also attack and hurt your opposition.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, first of all, every team has had their own different ways of attacking. Like Croatia, their ways of winning the game is basically, first of all, control it. Second of all, wait and see if something happens. If it doesn't, don't worry about it too much. Just keep waiting and keep waiting. And they don't really have an all-out attack style. They don't really have a consistent, I wouldn't even say, manner of approaching while they're controlling the matches. And in fact, Croatia in the quarterfinal against Brazil, that's the only game out of all 4 quarterfinals and the 2 semifinals where the team with more possession progressed. Every single time other than that game, it's been the other team who's gone through, the team with fewer percentage of the ball. And Croatia in that game actually only had 50.5%. So it was a very, very marginal domination isn't the right word, obviously, but a very marginal increase over Brazil's percentage. So I do think that that's particularly noticeable. It's something you brought up in the podcast after the semi-finals as well, and maybe will be something which helps to dictate which way the final itself rolls. But with not having all the possession or a majority of possession or long spells of possession, it's very, very important that, obviously, if you want to progress, you have clarity over how you're going to win the game anyway. Now, Croatia, maybe you can leave them aside because they're so happy to wait and take the game to extra time and penalties if they do, that, it doesn't really matter to them.
Croatia's mentality is their strongest weapon, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very much so. But whereas I'd say like Morocco, who you might think might be less capable sometimes of attacking than Croatia, given some of the players in each team, were not. Morocco were excellent going forward. Channel work, overlaps, overloading down both flanks, very, very good at getting the fullbacks into high areas of the pitch. Every midfielder knew who they were covering for and where. So the build-up play from Morocco in both channels was really, really good. Argentina's approach play has been much better since the first, I would say, 2 group games, because they've not been so reliant on getting it wide, trying to go through Di Maria as they did so often in that first game. And it's been really, really impressive, I think, overall, Argentina's build-up play. It's been nice balance between getting a lot of Messi but not overly reliant on him. Like, they're perfectly happy now to go through Enzo and McAllister and an overlapping fullback down the left-hand side. That's absolutely fine for them. And probably importantly, it's fine for Messi as well, because then he's allowed to walk around and look for his spaces and be in position for the next thing, which will come to him inevitably. So it's worked really well for them. France, again, they have very, very clear patterns of build-up play. It's obviously biased through Griezmann and Mbappe, but even on counter-attacks, you can see it's a very France particular manner of moving the ball forward. The fullback has now tilted to the opposite side, with Theo getting forward a lot more than Lucas probably would have, but it's worked for them really well all the same. So it's good to see that there are different ways of playing and attacking and winning games at the World Cup. It's not everybody just trying to counter-attack the flanks after sitting in 40 minutes at a time or anything like that. There's not really, I wouldn't say, maybe Croatia were actually the most direct. I don't think there's really been anybody who's just attacked by, going for second balls and long crosses into the box and all that kind of stuff. I don't think there's been a very, very direct style at the World Cup, to be honest, this time.
The only time we saw real agricultural football like that was when the Netherlands went 2-0 down against Argentina.
Yes, which
and brought on the big fellas.
Yes, the Twin Towers. Yeah, that was
and just humped the ball into the box. But it does make you wonder if we saw what it did to Argentina's defense. I mean, it was chaotic for the last 15 minutes or the last 12 minutes, I think it was, of normal time plus the 10 minutes of stoppage time. Less so in extra time. I that's where I felt like the Netherlands lost that game, was that they didn't just go, hang on, we've got 7 massive lads, 6'2" and over, and the only outfielder they've got who's 6'2" or over is a substitute centre-back, but they balance that by having a 5'6" centre-back, and I'm not having that he's any taller than that. He's a gnome. He's 5'6". Let's just pump it back into the box again. And they went away from it. I thought it's ultimately what cost them. We went to penalties and they blew it. Through great saves by Emi Martinez, it's worth pointing out. Right, let's move on then from there. Let's talk about this 3rd and 4th place playoff. Croatia versus Morocco. Morocco, I think, the big kind of upset team of the tournament, beat Belgium, knocked out Spain, knocked out Portugal, gave France a hell of a game. They leave as heroes regardless, but this is a great opportunity for Morocco to bring home a medal. And the Croatian players, most of them, were at the last World Cup and they won a silver medal. This time they have also, like Morocco, obviously an opportunity to win a bronze medal. And look, if you're from Croatia, your chances of winning a World Cup are minuscule. To retire like Modric will after this World Cup from international football with a silver medal and a bronze medal, it's still a hell of an achievement. And I think both teams will be motivated to go and win it. But are we going to see full-strength teams? Or close to?
I mean, I guess I would expect that from Morocco. Maybe the odd alteration to, bring in someone if they want to particularly try them ahead of next year. Maybe because simply they've got obviously the injuries that they carry, and there's not really a need to risk them if they are carrying injuries now at this stage. You could understand it in the World Cup semi-final, obviously, but not for this game probably. Maybe a change in attack, maybe take out either Boufal or Naziri, for example, maybe start somebody else, see how they do. But mostly I would expect them to go as close to full strength as they're able to. Croatia, I think it would be a little bit different. I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say, Luka Modric doesn't want to play this game. He doesn't want his last World Cup game to be a 3rd place playoff. He wants, his World Cup legacy, his Croatian legacy, such as it is, to end in a meaningful match for them in terms of the World Cup. I guess he'll still be there for the Euros, but at least at the World Cup, maybe they want to try, I don't know, someone like Lovren Mayer maybe can play, maybe try and get Vlasic back into it as well. Maybe even just change shape completely, whether that's go to a diamond, maybe it's play Perisic up front, or I don't know, something. They've got to fix the number 9 role one way or another at one point or another, so you might as well start trying it right now. So I guess there's a bit more scope for them to change things than from Morocco. This isn't going to be their best finish at a World Cup ever, regardless of the result. I know that there's obviously the thing over Morocco, and they have a chance. And I've heard some players, more in the women's game than the men's, say that they very much like the idea of trying to come 3rd and getting that effectively a bronze medal sort of thing. I have to say, I don't like it. It's basically the game of the World Cup I'm not going to watch. I'm done with a lot of games by this point, and I'll look at the score. I'll probably look at the goals later on, but I'm not going to watch the game because it's just, I find it a bit too anticlimactic, to be honest, after the emotion of the semi-finals and after everything that's at stake at the semi-finals and how much effort teams put into it. And then it's the 3rd place playoff, which I'm not sure. It's like, it's a very, very bittersweet consolation prize, I think. And there's just not enough on it for me to stay invested in this or want either of the teams to do well or not, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is an opportunity for both managers to give the players that haven't featured some decent run, or players that have only played 10, 15 minutes, some decent run. I mean, for Croatia, they could go with Stanisic at right back. Maybe Erlich comes in with Satalo at centre back and Gvardiol plays left back. Something like that. And maybe they just decide to, see what that defence might look like if that was the defence they wanted to move forward with. All of those players are 24 and under. And with Lovren being 33 and garbage, and Vida being 33 and in the body of a 60-year-old, really, maybe they look at that and think, well, that might be our long-term defence, so let's roll there. You mentioned Lovro, you mentioned Vlasic. Could Christian Jakic maybe get some minutes in midfield? Potentially. Up front, they're all old. I mean, the youngest forward player is Petkovic, who's 28. So they don't really have great options there in terms of giving youngsters. But Lukas Sukic is one who might come in as well. He's 20 years of age. Start a World Cup game. I know what you're saying. It isn't an anticlimactic game, but it is still a World Cup game. And if you win it, you get a medal. So, I think Croatia can use it as a real opportunity to see what these players can do in a big game. And even though it's not the big game, it's still a World Cup game. It's still a deciding World Cup game. So, I think it will be anticlimactic, but it is still an opportunity for both nations, especially maybe more so Morocco, who haven't rotated a lot. It's just been injuries that have forced some changes. So maybe they give some of their younger players an opportunity as well. I will watch it just because it's a Saturday and there's nothing else to do at the moment. So it's either that or watch championship games, and I'm not really in the headspace to watch championship games. So I'll watch this, and hopefully somebody who hasn't had much shine in the tournament can have a moment, and I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm going to make you pick a winner, though. I know you're not going to watch it, but I'm going to make you pick a winner. Croatia or Morocco?
Morocco.
See, guys trying to sell me now on watching championship by telling me it's Middlesbrough versus Burnley. And at least Vincent Kompany has Burnley playing some decent football.
Hold on. Middlesbrough and Burnley. I don't even know who's home out of those teams, but surely either way is getting called off for a frozen pitch. But neither of those two.
It's in Borough, so almost certainly frozen pitch. 10. Yeah, it's in Borough. So almost certainly frozen pitch. So sorry guys, that game's not happening. This game will be played on nice warm grass in Qatar. Oh, it's in Burnley. So maybe a slight possibility. It goes ahead. They don't have underground heating there though, which, it's an old small ground. Right, let's do our teams of the tournament. I'm also going to pick Morocco, but it's more out of hope than anything, because I think it would be just if they could bring home a medal after this amazing run, and after a run in which the likes of Agard, the likes of Saiz, the likes of Mazraoui have played through injuries, Amrabat the same. These lads have really put their bodies on the line in this tournament for their nations, and potentially it's going to cost them in the back half of the season, where they might end up missing chunks because of injuries that they've worsened in this tournament. But I'll go Morocco. I'm not going to pick a scoreline, though. I'll just say I want Morocco to win, and we'll leave it there. Mm-hmm. Let's do our teams of the tournament. I've just realised I don't have anybody in my team of the tournament whose nation didn't reach the semi-final.
Okay.
And I'm a little bit disappointed in myself. Guy has put his forward, so I'm going to read Guy's actually first before we do ours. Actually, no, Guy, you come in on this and we'll go through ours. The three of us can do this together. So let's start with the goalkeeper. I've gone for Livakovic of Croatia. I think he was heroic in the Brazil game. In general play and in the shootout, I thought he had obviously a bit of an iffy semi-final, but I thought through the tournament, he for me was the standout goalkeeper, so I've gone for him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I've got him as well. I think that's perfectly fine. I think there's probably maybe three who were there or thereabouts, but I go with Livakovic.
And Mr. Drinkle?
Yep, same. He was the main reason they got to the semi-final, I think.
Cool. Right, let's move on then. I think we're all going to have the same right back as well. So I've gone Ashraf Hakimi.
Everybody on the planet should. I think the only one who could even get close to him is Nahuel Molina from Argentina, but I think Hakimi is a comfortable level above him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Guy?
Yep, I went the same, and I made the point on Twitter yesterday. It was really interesting that Hakimi was allowed to go forward as well, and not just hide in his own half against Mbappe.
Shout out to Kyle Walker. Right, let's go centre-back pairings. I've gone a way I didn't think I would. I've gone Christian Romero, who I think has been brilliant for Argentina. I know he missed one game, but I think he has been absolutely outstanding for them. I thought his semi-final performance was excellent. I thought in the quarterfinals he was excellent. So I've gone for him. And I've gone for Ibu next to him. Now, Josko Gvardiol was the one I was going to pick. But I think Ibu's performances have been at a level above Gvardiol. And I know that might be controversial for some people because Gvardiol has been great, but I've gone for Ibu.
I think it's fair on performance level. I personally, for the World Cup team of the tournament, I have a minimum of 4 starts. So if someone gets through to the knockouts, basically you are available for selection, and Konate's not on 4, so I can't have him in my own little...
but he might get 4. He might get 4 because he might play in the final. So will he then classify?
Well, if he plays very well in the final, I could restructure if I wanted, yes. But at the minute, I can't. So I can't.
We can just give him the golden ball. It's fine.
That's fair.
I have Gvardiol and Roman Saiz. I think the level of body on the line and, shall we say, leadership, which I know we don't like in Liverpool terms all the time, but I think in this context of a tournament and for what he's done and raising his own level and those around him, I think Saiz was excellent.
He was, and I came close to, originally when I looked at doing this after the quarterfinals, and I basically just had the Morocco back four and Amrabat because I hadn't seen a defence play better. But the reason I'm leaving Saiz out is because he had to go off early in this game. He had to go off early in the game before. Now, it's not his fault. He was injured. But just balance of overall, he's definitely deserves it. I'm not going to dispute the pick at all. There is obviously a difference as well between real leadership and, propaganda leadership.
Let's move it along.
Guy, give me your pairing.
I went Gvardiol because, well, he was playing next to Lovren and looked excellent, apart from when he played against Messi, which is fair enough. And I went Varane because he was just the one constant in the France backline. And yeah, I feel like I should have went Saiz, but I can't do 2 left-footed centre-backs, lads.
He's just watched Morocco be absolutely unbelievable in this World Cup with 2 left-footed centre-backs, and he still won't have it, Karl.
No. Well, no, because Agard and them were injured all the time, so it was actually on the balance of bringing in a right-footed person that got them this far.
Don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous.
Inherent bias.
Let's move into midfield before Guy insults all left-footed people.
We have to do left-back as well.
Oh, crap, we do. Right, I have gone for Mazraoui. I think he has been the best left-back I've seen at this tournament. I know he missed a game, but I think he has been absolutely outstanding throughout. I think the balance he offers that team, allowing Hakimi to bomb forward and reining in his own natural defensive instincts, playing behind Sophie and Boufal, who, let's be fair, has put in a real shift in the tournament, but isn't a particularly good defensive player. And I think Mazraoui has managed to lock down that side for Morocco. So I've gone for him.
Guy, you go.
Mine was between Mazraoui, and I thought he may have missed more football than he did, so I kind of want to swap it to him. But I've been bullying Acuna all tournament because I was saying he won a raffle and stuff like that. But he may not be able to do any on-football stuff like shooting and crossing and stuff. But as an outball, I think he's probably been Argentina's one of them, not the most important, but one of the most important system players. So I just put him there because he made the system work a lot better when the manager changed about 5 people. So yeah, I went Acuna, but yeah, I feel like I should have went Mazraoui there.
I think Acuna is a pretty fair shout. I think he's been very important in allowing Argentina's improvement from that first game and their build-up play and everything. So even though I don't think he's been the best one, I think he's an absolutely fine shout because he's had such a big impact, to be honest. I did initially have Mazraoui and I've changed it to Theo Hernandez. Basically, I think Theo should have been in from the start and has shown why throughout the World Cup. I think he has, on the balance of both halves of the pitch, been the best, whereas I think Mazraoui has probably played the best tactical role from left back, let's say.
I think Theo's performance against England just ruled him out for me. He was absolutely horrid. It's one of the worst individual performances I've seen at the tournament, and I've allowed that, unfortunately, to colour my view on him for the tournament. I think he's brilliant, and I think he has overall had an excellent tournament, but he was so poor in that game, and then he compounded everything with that absolutely brainless foul on Mason Mount, who wasn't getting the ball.
Yeah,
and I think I've just punished him for that, basically.
If he'd gone out there, he would have been responsible for a large part of the going out.
He was never playing for France again if Harry Kane scores that goal.
But they didn't.
Morocco would be in a final right now, though, so that'd be fun.
It is interesting to think, would Morocco have beaten England? I kind of feel like they might have. Let's move into midfield then. We'll just start at the holding midfield role because I'm going to assume we all have the same holding midfielder, Sofian Amrabat.
Yeah.
Declan right now. No, Amrabat, he was... I think we talked about the other day, didn't we, Dave, that if it wasn't for Messi and Mbappe being aliens, he'd be in a shout for the golden ball, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's been that good. It's staggering. He's been that good. And to be fair, having him, Hakimi and Mazraoui all in is part of why I also left out Romain Saïss, because I didn't think I could warrant putting in 4 Moroccan players, despite the fact that they probably all deserve to be in because they played so much above. So many of them played so much above their normal level. But yeah, Amrabat's absolutely a no-brainer. Have you both gone 4-3-3?
4-4-2.
You've gone 4-4-2. So have I. So that's okay. Mine's kind of a diamondy type thing. Let's go, because I can see Guy's gone 4-3-3. So we'll do our 8s and then we'll pick our last midfielder when Guy picks his first attacker. Okay. My first 8, I've gone for Enzo Fernandez. I think he's been brilliant, and I think the decision to drop Leandro Paredes and bring him into the team changed the trajectory of this Argentine team, and I think is the single biggest reason they have gone this far in the tournament. I think he's been absolutely outstanding. I don't think he's had a poor game. Scored a tremendous goal earlier in the tournament, provided the pass that got them going against Croatia. I just think on and off the ball, I think he's been maybe the best midfielder at the World Cup after Amrabat. So I've gone for him. So give me your first 8, Karl.
I've gone for Mateo Kovacic. So it's my, I think, 3rd Croatian in my team so far. Yeah. I've spoken about him enough. I think he was the best of their 3 who were very, very good in the group stage. And then in the knockouts, I think he raised his level again. And in the game they actually went out, I think he might have been the actual best midfielder on the pitch, certainly in the first hour of the game. I think Argentina as a unit were sensational in midfield, but Kovacic was near the best I've seen him play, to be fair.
And Guy?
Yeah, I went Kovacic as well because I think you needed a Croatian midfielder in there. It's the only reason they got out the group, probably. So I went with Kovacic as well. I think he was better than Modric, and obviously Brozovic plays the same position as Amrabat, so that's a no-no.
Yeah, so my second midfielder is Mateo Kovacic. I had it kind of between him and Adrian Rabiot. they were the two I was looking at and trying to decide whether or not, who to lean towards. And I've gone with Kovacic. I thought he was absolutely tremendous. His performance in the Brazil game will largely go unnoticed because so much of it was off the ball. But especially in that first half, he was ridiculous. He was great against Japan and played a massive role at dragging them back into that game when they went behind. So, yeah, I've gone Kovacic. So, Karl, second, number 8.
Let's go for the slightly right-sided one, I guess, since I can see guys. It's Griezmann. I think he is the alternative to Messi in the Golden Ball. I think he's been fucking unbelievable throughout the tournament, on and off the ball, both halves of the pitch. Last night, like I said in the other pod, I think maybe even including Kanate, he might have been France's best defender. He was unbelievably good. He gets through so much work. He doesn't lack anything, even though he's doing the work rate in terms of technique and creativity. The first goal came from his ability to pick space, which he's been doing all the way through the tournament. I think he's just been brilliant.
And Guy?
Yep, same for me. I think he's got them Welsh genes, hasn't he, where he steps up for country as well. And that's not saying he hasn't been excellent at times for Atletico Madrid, but he's a bit of a dumpster fire. And, well, he seemed to get this midfield position off Atleti, but and Griezmann just seems to have stepped up whilst playing for France. It may help having Tchouaméni and all the lads next to him, but yeah, I never saw this type of player in him. I thought he was always just like a number 10 or a second forward type thing, but yeah, he seems to be a much more complete footballer than maybe anyone ever thought. And it's going to be near on impossible for them to replace, because I can't see Nkunku doing this or anything like that. So if he ever thinks about retiring for France, I think that might be where their step down comes from.
So, excuse me, my fourth midfielder is Antoine Griezmann, because I agree with everything you've both said. And I've seen a lot of discourse over crediting Deschamps with getting players to buy in to playing this style of football. And I think the biggest factor in them playing this style of football successfully is the fact that Pogba and Benzema both got injured, because their egos would not allow them to play this type of football. Mbappe isn't asked to be part of the system. It's a 10-man system with him. I think the one who's really sacrificed the most is Griezmann. I think he, as we know, made his name as a winger, second striker, attacking player, a final third player, a goal scorer, a creator. And in this role, he's still a big creative player, but his off-ball work, as Karl said, after Ibu, second best defensive player on the pitch against Morocco. He was unbelievable. He was unbelievable against England as well. And, he disrupted what he needed to disrupt. He let Declan Rice have the ball in areas where he knew Declan Rice couldn't hurt England. And then he ran off the back of Rice over and over and over again. I think he's been incredible. And I think massive credit for this has to go to Simeone, because it is Simeone who's moved him back into this type of role for Atleti. And I think it's given Griezmann the belief that he could play in this role. I do wonder, if all things were equal and everybody was fit, would he be playing this role? Because if Pogba and Kante were fit, I don't think he would. I think he'd probably be playing where Ousmane Dembele's been playing. Even if Nkunku had been fit, we might have seen Griezmann play more off the right. So I think Simeone is the guiding factor for both of these teams, both for Griezmann and for Argentina, with that 4-man midfield they deployed in the semi-final. So, we'll leave the Simeone hype there, but it needed to be put in because obviously he's Diego Simeone. Karl, who is your fourth and final midfielder then?
I thought we were going to get through the whole World Cup without you bringing Simeone up,
Never.
Dismal. So my fourth one is obviously the left-sided one, and I had quite a debate with myself over who to include here. I really wanted to put Adrien Rabiot in because I think he's been excellent, but I didn't. And I really considered putting your man, Enzo Fernandez, in, but I didn't. In the end, I have gone with Alexis McAllister. I think,
fair.
I think that while Enzo has been just really, really, really good at both on and off the ball progression, and everything else has been excellent, and ball winning as well in midfield for Argentina has been very important with that. I think that McAllister has brought a real tactical balance for them. He's been able to be either a third centre mid, he's been slightly in off the left, when they've played that 4 across. He's also been in possession, the one who has really been able to push himself into like almost a number 10 role. He doesn't really dictate the ball all the time and demand that it comes to his feet all the time, but he's always there. He's always in possession, in space to receive possession. He's very, very good also at taking up the space that Messi doesn't at any particular time. We know Messi is able to just, walk around and wander and pick his spots and when to come alive and the rest of it. And it's a little bit like Alexis plays off that. Like some of the time against Croatia, you'd have seen like instead of a 4, it was almost like a 3, a 2, and a 1. And Alvarez was obviously left up top, and Messi is sort of filling in just to block off one of the passing lanes. And McAllister was doing exactly the same thing, but left-hand side, left channel, and it was so well done. And he's been excellent, like in terms of getting into the final third and creating chances, and he's got himself a goal obviously as well, and a few other bits. I just think he's been one of, along with Enzo, and along with the capacity to change system to suit who they're playing against, has been the biggest factor in Argentina turning around their tournament.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because they lost Giovanni Lo Celso, who'd really established himself as a vital player, doing all the things you've just mentioned. And they looked a little bit lost without Lo Celso. And Alexis has come in, and it's a new role for him. And obviously he's been playing in a sort of a deep-lying playmaker role for Brighton this season in a double pivot. So it's different to what he's been doing at club level of late. And he has just been excellent. And there's no ego with him. He's not a player that's looking for his own moments of shine. Every time he gets the ball, he's making the right decision. He really should have scored against Croatia. Had a great chance to score. But unfortunately just kind of didn't get enough purchase on the shot. But yeah, I've no disagreements at all. I love Alexis McAllister. I think he's a fantastic player, and I would take him at Liverpool in a heartbeat.
Any South American that's linked with Brighton, you buy.
Yes, basically. You follow around. You don't hire scouts anymore. Hire private investigators and get them to stalk the Brighton scouts, and whoever they look at, you just jump in and buy. If they look at some fella walking down the street kicking a can and they kind of give him a second glance, you buy that player. You tell him, get rid of that can. Here's a football. Here's a pair of boots. Go on, son. You come with us. Right, let's move into the attack then. I think, Karl, we're going to have the same 2 here. I know Guy has these 2. So, Guy, actually, you give us your front 3 first, because you've got somebody different to who I've got and who I think Karl has.
I'll do the 2 obvious ones, Messi and Mbappe, because, well, Messi, he's kind of turned back the clock, hasn't he? Especially against Croatia, poor Guardiola, who I put in my team of the tournament. If it wasn't for that, I think he'd be in everyone's team. Messi kind of ended the poor lad. But Messi, no, I think we mentioned the other reasons why Argentina have got through. He's the main reason Argentina got through. Yeah. Because even when they had the dreadful, unbalanced team, he was still playing really well. So Messi's in because, well, he's a freak. Mbappe, it's weird because I think he started off so hot. I think he's obviously been excellent in the fear factors. We always mention Virgil defending with aura. I think Mbappe frightens the life out of people with aura. So I think that kind of contributes to it as well. But I think maybe expected a bit more from Mbappe, but at the same time, he's been bloody excellent, so maybe it might just be too high standards. But my third one, I don't think unexpected, is Julian Alvarez, because I don't think many people would have had him in the Argentina starting 11. He obviously wasn't at the start, but Lautaro Martinez was so bad. Was so bad. And to bring in this lad who basically had a handful of starts for Man City. I know he played, was it River Plate he came from? He was seemingly excellent at. But to come in as a somewhat bit part player for Man City and have this impact linking up so well with Messi, making the system work a bit more and actually being a competent footballer at the minute, unlike Lautaro Martinez, I think he's been another part of their improvement. And there's not, maybe you could argue Giroud, but I'd prefer Alvarez.
He's in a couple of iffy games, though, hasn't he, Olivier Giroud?
Even Morocco, he missed that pretty easy chance, didn't he? Just took it too soon. Kane had a good tournament, but we went to quarterfinals. We're not pathetic here. El Nazir, I think it's tough for a striker in Morocco's system to stand out, isn't it? So I think Alvarez by default in the system I was playing anyway.
So, Karl, I'll come to you next then. I'm assuming that you've got the front two of Bruno Petkovic and Ante Budimir.
Yeah, just ahead of Haris Seferovic, who I've named on the bench. Yeah. No, I've gone with the slightly more surprising Mbappe and Lionel Messi combo. I think it's been everything the guy said about Messi is completely right, although I will say that I also think it's benefited him, Argentina, switching to two in attack, because it completely leaves him free to do what he wants and not leave Argentina. Maybe I should say it helped Argentina more than Messi, to be fair. Not leave Argentina without a focal point sometimes. Alvarez is everything Messi could want, to be honest, in terms of doing the hard work and the hard yards and the constant checking back and the tracking defensive runners or someone coming out from midfield, doing the channel work for him, everything. And the fact that he's actually very good in the final third as well. It's like what I imagine like Josh Sargent could be if he could actually control and shoot. It's quite nice to see that combo in attack from someone. These are always South Americans, aren't they? The people who can do the on and off the ball work. We've had quite a few of them at Liverpool. We've seen loads of them in the Premier League, and another one here for, sadly, our biggest rivals at the moment. But I think Alvarez has been great, so I don't disagree with him being put up to that level. I just don't think he's been, for me, better than one of the other midfielders that I could have, which is obviously why I went 4-4-2, team of the tournament for the shape of the tournament.
Yeah, and in a surprise to nobody, I've got Messi and Mbappe as well. I agree with everything Guy said about Messi, and I do agree with about Mbappe. Like, he's had moments in the quarterfinal and semi-final, but it felt like to that point he could just take over a game, and he hasn't done it in the last two rounds. But he still had a big hand in the first French goal against England, and obviously had a big hand in both goals last night, with both goals coming because, as Karl mentioned on the last pod, the entire Moroccan defence converged on him, and he was still able to get a shot away both times. And because of the deflection bringing the ball towards the French player, and all the Moroccan players been so keyed in on Mbappe, that French player had a free shot on goal. So just to recap then, I've got Livakovic, Hakimi, Romero, Kanate, Mazraoui, Enzo, Amrabat, Kovacic, Griezmann, Messi, and Mbappe. Karl, you have
Livakovic, Hakimi, Saiss, Gvardiol, and Theo Hernandez. Griezmann, Amrabat, Kovacic, McAllister, Messi, Mbappe.
And Guy?
Livakovic, Hakimi, Varane, Gvardiol, Acuna, Griezmann, Amrabat, Kovacic, Messi, Alvarez, and Mbappe.
So I wasn't the only one then that didn't pick, that only picked from the semi-finals. You both went the same way. There is nobody who made our teams in the tournament who went out earlier than the semi-finals.
I don't think there's a real argument for anyone out of that group. I think England, Luke Shaw's the closest, because left-back's a bit sparse.
I think Bellingham from England.
Oh, Bellingham again.
Fernandes from Portugal. I've as you can probably tell from this, I've already written out a squad. Probably.
Which Fernandes? Bruno Fernandes?
Yeah, Fernandes for later on, yeah. Probably you can make a case for Nathan Ake being included in the centre-back group, but I wouldn't put him in the top two for sure. And then from Brazil, the only real ones I could think of were Casemiro and Lucas Paqueta. Yeah. There was only one from Spain I thought maybe could be involved again, which was Dani Olmo. But again, I think he's like several levels below where I would pick from.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tyler Adams had an outstanding tournament for the Americans, but obviously playing the same position as Amrabat, and with Amrabat going two rounds further, the argument goes away. I thought Yunus Musa is worthy of a mention. You mentioned Aki. I thought he was very good throughout. England, Bellingham for certain, but he did have a couple of quiet games. I thought Harry Kane had a great tournament, like Guy said. I genuinely did. I thought comfortably his best tournament for England, but the remaining memory of Harry Kane at this tournament is going to be a missed penalty, so tough shit. I thought there's a couple of Japanese players that had standout tournaments.
I nearly put Mitoma in just for the vibes.
Just for the vibes, the greatest player of all time. But unfortunately, he missed a penalty as well, and out he goes. Like Karl said, for Brazil, Casemiro was good, but so many of their players were just so disappointing. And again, Spain can fuck off. I just can't be dealing with that kind of nonsense.
When the World Cup's done, we need to do a most disappointing team of the tournament.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Lautaro Martinez is the captain, and I won't hear anything else.
It might just be the Brazil team, surely.
Belgium.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we kind of expected that because Hazard's a corpse, let's be honest.
Yeah, and like you said, for Portugal, João Felix had a couple of great games, and Bruno was very, very good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what went wrong against Morocco. Morocco just stifled them. But I think we've gone. We've got a lot of the same players. We've got a lot of crossover, and I think in the places we've got differences, the players that each of us picked are on each other's shortlist. So yeah, I think there's been some really good performances. So we'll leave that there for today. We will be back. We'll have 2 more pods for this World Cup. We will have one where we preview the final. We pick our player of the tournament, our young player of the tournament, our manager of the tournament, and also take a guess at who will end up with the golden boot. And then at some point next week, we will do just a recap, and we'll do maybe a most disappointing 11 or whatever. It might be a most disappointing 18 because there's been so many players that really let themselves down here. And we'll just obviously recap that final as well. So, Karl, anything you want to mention before we go?
No, enjoy the World Cup final, everyone.
Cool. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.